take us straight to Infernal Shrines.
Yep, and not going to because it was banned by SOA. Doing a little bit of their research, even though they've lost a couple of times on it recently. But you can see here, this is still a very good CE map. 10-1.
And not as good as a SOA map here with 4-13. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. We say this every single time we cast a game of SOA. They still have to fight their terrible, terrible statistics from phase 1. However, they're getting there. But even as it is, 4-13 on Infernal Shrines, which is the most common, the most popular competitive map these days, is still something that shouldn't be there. So, will they have a special plan, a special draft, some special tactics maybe against CE? I highly hope they have. Otherwise, they might fall very quickly. Now, CE, what do they stand for these days? Once in like a couple of weeks and months ago, they were known for aggressive support plays with a Karzin, with a Brightwing, going deep with that Emerald Wind. These days, I think they have toned down a little bit. They're not as aggressive as they used to be. Just think back, Tetcher, to those crazy 4 melee comms on Warhead Junction in phase 1. I think now they're playing a little bit more standard. Not always to the greatest results, though.
No, not always to the greatest results. They have shown some weaknesses in certain matchups and just lack of, I don't know if it's drafting versatility, just maybe lack of understanding drafting in certain scenarios. They've shown themselves to get countered very easily and to miss out on very key things. We have ETC as the first pick. As a reminder, Kel'Thuzad is allowed today. He's been played a couple times throughout HGC already.
Exactly, and we talked about this yesterday, actually. So there was a lot of hype around Kel'Thuzad when he was first announced, when people started to play him for the couple of first time. Like, up to this day, he's a regular ban in most of my Hero League games because the amount of burst damage he can dish out after landing a combo is just very, very frightening. However, Tetcher, in competitive play, so far his results weren't nearly as convincing as many would have thought.
Nope, it's actually currently 3-4 if you just count the top 3 regions who have already played him: Korea, America, and Europe. If we count the Copa America that happened this past weekend as well, though, that he is currently 5-5. They had a little bit more success with him. So he's, so far, pretty even. So balanced, I guess. Well done, Blizzard.
Yeah, the thing about competitive use of Kel'Thuzad and I would say like casual Hero League use of Kel'Thuzad is of course a lot different. In competitive, you can get punished really, really hard if you play Kel'Thuzad and you overstay a welcome, you overextend a little bit too much, because let's face it, he's probably one of the least mobile mages in the game. So once there's a mobile target next to him, like a Genji, like an Illidan, or maybe even a Tracer, he's gonna have a lot of problems to stay alive. So you have to be very cautious when drafting Kel'Thuzad into your composition. Now, getting back to Jaina here, though, not really a lot has changed in terms of banning and drafting. Tassadar and Auriel are still very, very much contested there. Looks like most teams still don't want to face those two heroes in particular. Whereas we see Uther and ETC still coming in first and second. Do you think, Tetcher, that China is still following the international rules of the meta, or do you think they are kind of stuck and kind of doing their own thing again?
They're sort of stuck in that limbo in between, where they'll try the meta, but because they haven't practiced it, they still run their own meta.
Yeah.
And you can see it's starting to catch up with a lot of Lucio, but it's sort of missing out on all the other strong heroes, like the Tyrande and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But either way, they are certainly adjusting. They're adjusting in their own way. They're continuing to China. No matter what happens, the rest of the world, China just attempts to ignore what's going on and just use what they think works. They don't let what works for other regions, other play styles, affect them.
Yeah, and if they do, it takes them a little bit longer than other regions to really catch up. Just think back of phase 1 and 2, where Anubarak, when he was at his prime, was largely ignored in China because teams just didn't think he was that good. And when they drafted him into the wrong kind of compositions where he naturally couldn't really shine as much. So it wouldn't surprise me if trends like you said, the Lucio, or heroes like Garrosh actually as well, would take a little bit longer to really find their way into the Chinese meta, because except for Wind here, who actually plays for CE, we haven't really seen that much of convincing Garrosh play, whereas in other regions like Europe, Bad Benny from Team Expert, for example, has been putting on a clinic on that hero.
Very true. And we can see CE bringing out the Zarya. Incredible success rate with them running it in particular, and it's had an explosion of popularity inside of China. That does mean they only need a ranged hero left, as they already have a kind of sort of 3 heroes that are under the tank banner, all of them with fairly low health pools and different layers of survivability in some way or another, in form of shield, sanctification, and spinning, which is apparently healing. But yeah, they need a ranged hero overall, and it's good. They're very much a not too grouped up, but kind of grouped up team fight comp with the AoE healing of Rhaegar, sanctification, etc., which is pretty good when you're fighting against a Grey main, because it means you can turn on him very easily. That's how you counter that, though. You get some poke damage.
I like it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Hammer has been deployed. She's getting protected by 2 full supports in her backline, Uther and Brightwing. Uther and Brightwing complement each other very nicely in the first place because of their different healing styles, and now we see a Cassia coming in. Cassia, of course, one of the best heroes to face Sergeant Hammer, as long as you can dodge the respective heroic abilities, the Napalm and, of course, the BFG, because then Sergeant Hammer's attacks won't actually put a scratch on her armor, as long as she keeps on moving. So we have an extremely durable composition on both sides. The Cassia plus Zarya regular support, even the Sonya and Tyrael, as you said, almost every hero has a means to keep themselves alive in the first place, and then put on top the Zarya shields and the healing provided by Rhaegar. And it's going to be very hard for their opponents, SOA in that case, to really punch through, right?
Very much so. It appears, by the way, your Nightbot is out of date. Just a little bit. So are we currently, but it's an excellent question from Declef, are we currently on the Cassia buff patch?
I would say we're on the same patch as the remaining HGC regions, right? So it should be the release Kel'Thuzad patch.
On the live server. I mean, it's China, so...
To be honest, I do not know. My apologies.
Okay, fair enough. Well, either way, Cassie is still, like Kendrick said, incredibly strong. She's one of the few tanks who can actually kind of dive hammer just due to the armor. When you actually run into her range, you get a couple shots that aren't going to crit as much as they would, which is always nice. There's always the option to go for Q builds, even though it's kind of meh. But if you want to try and poke hammer down that way and rely on your tanks to get the all-in potential. And of course, if they really want blow-up potential, there's Judgment, there's Leap. They have that engage potential if they really want it. Just slightly off topic here. I don't know if you remember what happened last season in the last week, but we had SPT using a Gazlo, and I got reminded of that because I just tabbed to a notepad document wondering what it was, and it's Rich's Gazlo build from MVP Black. And I was just like, I have that open. So, fair enough, and that just reminded me of it.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive right into the action here in the first game of the day in the final week of HGC China. We have SOA versus CE. Let's go. Welcome to the Infernal Shrines, ladies and gentlemen. On the left-hand side, you see the team known as Challenge, aka CE, with Alufal on that Rhaegar, Wind plays the Tyrael, KTY on the Cassia, Paradise plays Sonya, and Zuyu once again on that Zarya.
Whereas on the right-hand side is going to be Start Over Again, with Faye on Uther, Uncle G on Sergeant Hammer, TY on Brightwing, Spark BZ on ETC, and Molly is running the Grey main with a lovely ballistics mount.
Absolutely.
That's the one thing. I love all these banners and things. I want more mounts. I want it to be constantly seen anytime I'm rotating which team I'm supporting. I want to just have to. I don't want to have to spam T as I travel across the map.
I mean, you've been going pretty ham on those HGC bit cheers anyways, haven't you? I mean...
Yeah, what are the support teams I like?
You got them all just yet? Or is there still a team that is not worthy?
No, that's the thing. All the teams are worthy. It's a situation of I want to save up because going to LA. So after I get back from LA, I'll probably buy the rest.
There we go. Fantastic. Now, of course, you can cheer for your favorite teams in HGC, but just by using your bitch on Twitch and using them on the official channel called twitch.tv/BlizzHeroes. You should do that right now, especially if you want to be really cool, if you want to be a really cool cat. and be fancy and unique, you cheer for one of the Chinese teams, because at BlizzCon, I think not many people might have those fancy banners. And let's face it, teams like the One or CE or SPT have some of the coolest looking emotes in the game.
They really, really do. Very much a fan. Right now, we're seeing Zuyu and crew putting a lot of pressure onto the bot lane, and they're making heavy usage of the grenade build to just poke down Sergeant Hammer. TY has had to rotate down and is just spamming E onto Hammer to make sure that they get some kind of counter push here. But right now, CE dominating this bot lane. Hammer is ironically being outranged with this grenade build. Yeah, it's slight difficulties. Here comes Pop Busy for the rotation.
It's really funny, like, Sergeant Hammer is normally the one that wants to apply a lot of pressure onto that lane, but she is getting heavily outpushed by Zuyu's grenade build. The Demolitions Expert, followed up by the Pinpoint Accuracy at level 7, is doing so much work, but on the flip side, we also see a strong SOA top lane push going in. And given the fact that the first shrine is going to appear in the top lane, this might already pay dividends. However, bottom lane is about to fall. They just can't pierce through. Cassia doesn't care, Zuyu doesn't care. Nobody cares about those attacks.
Yeah, TY does take tower shots, but is completely fine. They're just absorbing all the ammo with those shields from Zarya. Sergeant Hammer moving into focused attacks. Full teleport build for TY. No visibility. This is just making sure that they can scout and give Hammer maximum shooting potential. But first forward of the game does go down. Paradise, on the other hand, was able to defend the top one.
Yeah, and also we can see a new Brightwing build, kind of, compared to the previous weeks. So that, I would lean towards it's the live patch, actually, because Brightwing also did receive some significant updates. Going for a full teleport build again, going for the Peekaboo. Unfortunately, we can't even read what the talents say in Chinese, but we're just gonna assume it's the new Brightwing with a stronger Peekaboo. And at the very latest, at level 7, we're gonna find out whether the shield, if she goes for that talent, is going to be applied on both Brightwing and the ally, or just on the ally.
That would be an excellent way for us to tell. We will find out very soon, as we do see Uncle G moving forward, dropping some good poke onto Zuyu with the shield down. Not able to get a huge amount more, but Uncle G, good damage output already. There's double support. There's only one front line for Hammer, which usually would be a no-no, but with this kind of good double support, one of them without having to burn mana, which is good, because Faye is low on mana as they move in, trying to get Zuyu once again. Bit delayed on that Hammer of Justice, and as such, Faye getting chased down. Enough for the kill, though. You can see very low health and mana bars on the side of SOA.
Yeah, and only after 3 minutes and 30 seconds, Zuyu is already fully maxed out on those grenades, as you can see here. That's going to increase the radius of each grenade, and of course, the cooldown is going to be greatly reduced. So now his poke is going to get even more annoying to deal with. And look at him, he's constantly almost full energy, because SOA attacks him so much while he's shielding allies or himself. Same goes for the buildings. He's very good at absorbing those shots, as you can see here. So now with the Punisher on board, CE can really snowball ahead.
He has defensive shielding as well, making him even more useful for pushing into this Sergeant Hammer. As they move in with the Punisher, Hammer is forced to unsiege, getting some good poke damage off onto the Punisher, but the pressure, look at this, KTY and Wind, 2 versus 4, just rushing forward and putting on that pressure. Zarya gets her level 7 talent in the form of that extra grenade Pinpoint Accuracy, the extra center damage on the shots.
Exactly, and if you successfully completed your level 1 quest, then of course landing grenades with the very center of it is a little bit easier, because the radius in the first place is much larger than before. So really nice synergy. If you go for that grenade build, I would normally always recommend picking those 2 towns together. But yeah, very deadly first performance here by CE. They're not stopping, they're not letting go, they're just continuing to apply pressure everywhere, securing themselves over a 1-level lead. Now, we see Brightwing, of course, going for the full teleport build, and I'm now almost 100% sure that it is indeed the live patch, but we're going to find out in a bit.
Now we see it. Teleporting. Here we see. Does Brightwing, yes, she does. Live patch. As we see them turn around, try to get some damage off onto the team of CE, but CE immediately turn it round with that healing totem, and they're just able to push back pretty easily. Nicely played. A good attempt by SOA. Even though they had a personal advantage, they didn't want to take the risk, even though they're even on talents. I think that was a little too cautious.
I think so too. And Tetra, one thing that really baffles me as well when I look at this match is that SOA in the last 2 phases was a team that actually played a lot of Zarya themselves, to the point where Uncle G was so good at that hero that other teams actually respect banned it against him because they didn't want to face with it. But now it looks like they don't even know how to play. Look at that, Uncle G is attacking the Zarya while the shield is up 24/7 while in siege mode. To me, it seems like SOA doesn't know how to deal with this comp, and they're making so many beginner mistakes.
They are. They're really struggling. You see, first aid popped on Sergeant Hammer already, just because she's already taking so much poke damage from the spit from the lightning javelins and from those grenades of Zuyu. It's literally just we don't have to all-in Hammer if we keep her low forever.
Exactly. If you keep the hammer low, there's nothing she can do, and especially with
my god, that grenade hurts.
Zuyu is an absolute monster at this point. He just dodges every ability just like it was nothing. That power slide not hitting anywhere near. And then, of course, those grenades. They're raining down from the skies, dealing so much damage.
Zuyu has turned into the coach from The Simpsons. Bombardment! Bombardment! As Uncle G is desperately trying to dodge, but is suffering really high amounts of damage. Look at it! He's just getting poked. Zuyu's actually going in. Wind's trying to chase it down. Uncle G turning it round. Smart BZ tanking through. The ball lightning not able to finish off. The Fend gets him though. TY with the aggressive move forward. TY also goes down. KTY versus TY. It's so confusing.
Wow.
But either way, KTY, apparently that extra K is enough to easily allow them to trump through 3 members of SOA before they even get just after they get halfway through the objective.
The big thing for SOA also is, though, that I think their composition, in order to have any chance of dealing with what CE brought to the table, is they need to get at least level 10. Ideally, in the late game, they're going to be able to deal more damage because they will gain access to potentially game-breaking rig abilities like the Mosh Pit. Now we see once again how beautifully executed that was. Zuyu going in, dropping that explosion zone very quickly to isolate the Brightwing that is now going to teleport in on that ETC. Beautifully done. ETC. I like the target prioritization by KTY as well. He didn't focus on the Brightwing because like, yep, Zuyu and Wind's got this, so I'm going to chase down the ETC that was almost getting to safety. So beautiful decision making and shot calling there by CE. They're now dominating this game in every aspect.
So although finally hitting the level 10, they've brought out the big guns. They brought out a lot of CC to try and counter these really quick pushes in the form of Divine Storm, Mosh Pit, Emerald Wind. Who needs protection? It's all in on the team fights here. Either disengage or very hard engage here. Sergeant Hammer, a little bit of just extra damage going with that Napalm Strike. Not going to take the risk of going for that BFG. Even with all that lockdown, they don't really seem to have the faith that they are able to blow someone up, considering tank / shield / heals / everything.
Exactly, you brought up a very good point. We see a very offensive route going in here by SOA, with that Divine Storm, with the Mosh Pit and the Emerald Wind. And I like this this decision here, because they find themselves so far behind that they may as well go for a Hail Mary, hope for a wonderful Mosh Pit and Divine Storm follow-up to really turn the tides. If they play normal standard with maybe a stage dive or a Divine Shield, I think they're only going to delay the inevitable. So I like this risky call by SOA. This might be their only chance of actually coming back.
Pretty bad bait on the Punisher, though. They bait it over to the Fountain side, so it takes 1 less tower worth of damage, and as such, the Fountain goes down. HGC moving in, not mosh pitting. He's being patient, but that might cost him his life. The good cleanse! He's able to walk through the expulsion zone. Hand of protection. Wow. You beauty.
Yeah, Fei with a big play here, saving his cow mate, the ETC. Otherwise, he would have actually gotten knocked back. And even if the cleanse had been cast a little bit earlier, I think the duration would have not been long enough to guarantee his ETC's escape, because he might have been knocked back in the middle of the expulsion zone. So perfect timing, perfect execution, really well played by Fei.
Very, very nicely done by Fei indeed, and as such, SOA, they protect their keep, they do not lose the cow, Mosh Pit's still available, there's still time for that surprise dance party.
Exactly, I like what Sergeant Hammer is doing, using the siege mode here to basically scout and shoot over the wall, so there was relatively little risk of him getting surprised and ganked on. Now, CE is close to 15. And if they maintain this lead, there's going to be a nice time window for SOA to fight 13 against 15. But for now, we see another Divine Storm coming in.
Divine Storm onto the Cassia, trying to focus her down. KTY taking huge damage, and Molly's able to pick up the kill. The identification is dropped, but everyone else is in the mosh pit. There's no follow-up here. Huge focus onto Rhaegar, who gets taken. No, he's alive. Alufal pulls back, and Faye's going to offer in exchange. TY's dropped 2. Molly's too low to survive. He will go down. We're seeing Uncle G in full retreat. EGC is trying to get to his base as well, but there's the entire enemy team in between him and the base. He turns around and finds a place to be, but that's a 3-for-1 in favor of CE.
Tetra, the fight started off very well with SOA locking down the Cassia. There was no chance for KTY to actually make it out alive because the Ancestral was not cast in time. But however, Sonya Paradise was not even participating, and the moment all the cooldowns were blown on the side of SOA, Sonya came in like a wrecking ball, dismantling the entire backline and turning it around big time. We actually see another replay of that fight here. Divine Storm, not really that good, only hitting KTY, but it laid the foundation to really get that kill. Sanctification a little bit too late. Big mosh pit, and now comes Paradise.
But the fact is, this all changed. Paradise getting the huge poison spear, but Alufal lived. You can see it with the shield from Wind that kept him alive there. And because Alufal lived, he was able to heal himself back up, and they were able to turn around that fight. So clutch from CE there. But now they are being pressured away from this objective. Paradise continuing to put on the pressure though. Uncle G dropping damage, boosting in, getting some extra hits there. Divine Storm is used, but we see the cleanse onto Paradise there, not able to get the value. Now TY gets sniped by the grenade. Oh. The health bar's dropping low. Infinite, well, not infinite lightning yet, sorry, just full lightning. But everyone else is dying. ETC, he's trying to appeal for his team. Hammer's in full retreat. He drops the napalm a little bit too far back, slowing from Rhaegar. ETC gets out. Sergeant Hammer goes down. Another 3 for 0 this time in favor of SOA.
Justice rained from above here with all those grenades and spears being fired and launched by Grisaria and Cassia. Once again, the damage was tremendous and there was no chance for SOA to make it out alive. I mean, Brightwing and Uther were really playing well here. The cleanse was on point, a beautiful Emerald Wind into Ice Block to really guarantee Brightwing's survival, but the Ancestral here too late. Nice retaliation kill. This might actually be enough to keep them in the game.
Very, very nice. They're trying to move in. Here comes the Brightwing teleporting onto Molly, looking for a turnaround. ETC is just kind of stuck. There we go. Power slides out. He's still alive. Now it's a 5v4. They're able to try and drive back the punch. They're not damaging it, though. They just want to remove CE from the equation. Paradise taking lots of damage. Napalm is dropped. Not enough for the kill. They can now focus on the Punisher, though, because they force CE back. That kill was so important for SOA right now.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, SOA remains in the game. They do not lose a keep even, so that's huge for them. The keep remains healthy and alive. That means they don't have to worry about that top lane too much. No catapults being unlocked here as for now. And that kill on Cassia was so crucial. It was the best target they could have gone for, because without Cassia, without KTY, most of the damage that CE could have actually applied was no longer available. And as such, Zarya and Sonya were not enough, and they took so much poke damage as well from all those Greymane cocktails, from the Napalm Strike of Sergeant Hammer. So really well played, and I think if SOA continues to teamfight like that, you know, a little bit more careful with that beautiful focus on the right target, they might actually stabilize.
They might indeed. I want you to just think about for a second, considering the history of napalm in the real world, how often do you think someone has got to say the sentence scouting napalm? I think not very often. We are very lucky, as we do see SOA retreating back, looking for, getting ready to defend another keep, another low keep. BarbZ was looking for a mosh opportunity. Maybe his location here is enough to be a threat to stop CE going all in. In fact, it is. We're seeing 2 members peeling off, and that's giving time. Teleport in from Brightwing, a little bit of a shield, trying to poke back. They want to be careful about how much damage, though, they do to Zuyu. I'm not so sure about this napalm in the first place because they're against Zarya. They're just giving her shields.
Yeah, her energy. Exactly. It's very easy for Zarya to stack up that energy as long as people... Oh, did you see? Oh, the cleansing shield was so good. Zarya actually avoided the power slide by ETC and baited him into going in deeply. Now we see a Divine Storm in the bottom lane.
Through the gap! They can't get through the gap! It's too small! Pick off 2 members. ETC manages to get his way back round, but with 2 members dead, no level 20. This is kind of devastating. The core is about to be pressured. Sergeant Hammer's getting engaged on. That's not such a good idea. Sergeant Hammer has Stone Skin now, making her even harder to kill. TY getting focused, but they're focusing heroes. Emerald Wind is just... Wow, that was not useful. Mosh Pit's used and gone. SmartBZ, they're trying desperately to do the damage. It's basically only up to Uncle G. Brightwing teleports in, but the Holy Ground is zoning him out, and that is GG. First game goes over to CE.
CE, well played, utilizing that Zarya to the max, but everyone, literally everyone in their team played their absolute A-game. Fantastic performance, just like we would expect from the former Chinese champions and the current 2nd place in the standings. SOA, though, they tried to come in with a very exotic composition with a Sergeant Hammer. They tried to surprise their opponents. Unfortunately, it backfired. They had moments of brilliance, though, when they showed us those clutch picks on the enemy Cassia, but in the end it was not enough. They will have to start all over again.
Yeah, and that did not work out. That Zarya, incredibly effective. The Sergeant Hammer, I liked the idea. Cassia was the perfect response to it, though.
Yeah.
And then, as we said, as chat have said, as everyone has said, Napalm versus Zarya is just guaranteeing that you're going to take the maximum amount of damage because she's going to just fire these full energy grenades at you consistently.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Didn't work out. The hammer didn't work out for SOA there.